All right. Let's see, I'm recording. All right. Welcome to Movie Smackdown, the podcast where we take two movies and compare them. This week, we will be talking about the movies Starship Troopers and Avatar. With me today are my friends.
Hello, I'm Jacob. I'm McLean's friend.
And I'm Tyler, also McLean's friend.
Right. So today we're talking about two movies that I have very mixed emotions about. I'm sure you guys will too. Avatar, which is a movie that people loved, and then after that, everybody seems to either hate it or forgotten about it. And Starship Troopers, which was a movie made bad on purpose, could we say?
Well, I'm sure we'll have some contention over bad, but was made
it's made cheesy on purpose, I think.
Yeah,
is the better.
Highly cheesy.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
then I think this is really going to be so let's just dive into first impressions. So Tyler, this was your first time watching Starship Troopers, so I want to get your first impressions.
So Starship Troopers is a movie that I've always seen like posters for, but I never knew anything about. So when McLean contacted me, like, "Hey, I want to be on this podcast. We're talking about Starship Troopers and Avatar." I'm like, "All right, I've seen Avatar. I've never seen Starship Troopers." So like, I found it on Amazon. You can watch it free with ads, unless you have an ad blocker, which there's no ads, so you just watch it for free.
Oh,
So I had the impression that it's kind of, I thought it was like a kind of like a maybe like a PG-13 PG B movie. No,
it's really not.
People die. It's graphic. There's boobs everywhere.
Yeah.
There's blood. It's
All right.
kind of epic.
Yeah, it is great. How about Avatar? What are your thoughts on Avatar?
Avatar's a movie that, like, I saw it in theaters. It was in 2009. I was 9 years old at the time.
I remember being very young when I saw. I think I saw it like a year later. I don't know. I remember I played the video game before I actually played. No, I saw it like 3 years after it came out. I played the video game before I actually saw the movie.
Yeah,
I'll get into that later when we're talking about Avatar. But yeah, continue on what you're saying.
It kind of, like, I don't know why, like, I didn't enjoy it much as a kid for some reason. It's like it's like the perfect movie you think a kid would enjoy. There's action, beautiful special effects.
Yeah,
it was too long to keep a 9-year-old's attention, I think. But,
it was too long, and it's just me. Did it get I'm gonna save this actually later on when we're talking about the movie, but there's something that I found kind of like oddly disturbing about Avatar.
Yeah, like, I think the faces of the Na'vi are kind of like Uncanny Valley in a way.
Yeah. How about Jay? Sorry. Finish your sentence there, Tyler.
As I've had mixed feelings about it growing up, but I think I'm at a place right now where I think I really like this movie, and I wish I had a different experience. Like it's again, it's still mixed, but like I've grown my appreciation rather than.
Okay, so me and you might butt heads on this movie.
I will butt heads with you because
I'm
not a diehard fan, but
Jake, your turn.
Okay, well, yeah, this is my second time watching. Actually, I think my third time watching Avatar. It's weird. Okay, so the first time I saw Avatar, I was like, I want to say 9 as well. Like, it was right after it came out. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it at home, like after it was on DVD, but I saw it really quickly. And I remember being like, I just remember like watching it and just being like, ooh, cool aliens and shit. And then I think like I bought the movie and then I watched like half of it, and then I got so tired that I went to bed, and I watched the rest of it the next morning, except since I only had it for like 24 hours. I got to like the last 5 minutes and then it stopped because my 24 hours was up.
That's actually great.
Yeah, so I never got to see the ending. So then I think I caught it on TV at one point when I was like in high school. And then I just watched like the ending. I caught like the last 45 minutes of it. And then so I rewatched it last night along with Starship Troopers, which I had seen. I think I saw that in high school as well. And I remember not really having an opinion on it. Like, I watched it and I was like, okay, there's some cool like stuff.
I'm gonna ask you something about you, like if you had the same experience as with Starship Troopers I did. Starship Troopers is like the cult classic territory.
Yeah.
And I found out of it because of a friend I worked at, but the first time I ever saw it was on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And like the first time I really saw it like all the way through was like when I like rented it myself, but because I saw it on TV, I was like, what is he talking about? This is lame. Because I really just like I saw it on TV, they toned down a ton of violence. So I don't know if
Mhm.
you had that experience, but
No, I watched it. I
yeah,
got a DVD copy.
yeah. So what's your stance on Avatar now?
Yeah, rewatching it, I don't know. There's a lot that I appreciate about it.
Yeah,
But
so I think we
I
should talk.
think, yeah,
I think we should
the
talk about
story
Avatar
falls apart a bit.
first.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm just gonna go over my initial thoughts. I actually took notes on the movie,
Mhm.
so we're gonna go through like the plot synopsis basically, and we'll go into my notes. But I want to talk about my like first impressions. I remember like Avatar had the biggest marketing campaign I could remember of like my young childhood.
Yeah.
Like I remember that. The only thing I remember, and I don't really remember as well because this was still pretty like early on in my childhood.
Mhm.
Because Tyler and I were 9. You probably were like what 10,
No,
10,
I
11.
was yeah, probably around then, yeah.
Yeah.
I think also like I can't remember the reason, like because I
Mhm.
didn't watch movies back then, and I
Mhm.
I can't remember the reason why I chose to watch Avatar. I think it literally was just like popular. I don't even
Yeah,
know. Like it,
I'm with you. I wasn't really a movie kid when I was younger either. I wasn't really a kid who's like you pop in the movie. I mean, besides like Star Wars, I wasn't always have been like a huge Star Wars
yeah,
nut, but because as a kid that was like the only movie series like I knew about and like but Avatar I remember was just such like a big deal. Like I remember sitting in the cafeteria in school and hearing about it. And I feel like you couldn't avoid this movie from like when it was announced to like a few years afterwards. Because I remember, I want to see if you guys have the same like memory, like going as a family, like buy something at a store and they'd have like those layout TVs, like they'll look at this new great Blu-ray or HD or whatever was the deal at the time, and that was the same movie that was playing. That and like two other movies were always playing in the stores, and because the movies like I remember when I was younger not liking the movie, and I think as Tyler said, it's a hard movie for a kid. I think to like, um, because in a weird way, it's like Uncanny Valley. I think the story is a little too deep into itself,
yeah. It's
and
hard to understand all the
yeah,
nuances of like the story, and then there's also the factor of like if you I think calling it like Blue Dances with Wolves is a bit extreme, but
mhm.
like no kid would sit through Dances with Wolves, so it's
Or
like the
like
same
yeah,
idea.
um, yeah, because and the other thing I was thinking too about it is like the human deaths are kind of horrific in it. And I think as a kid, I kind of like instinctually you see humans getting killed, and you're like, oh my god, this is like terrifying. Because like there's dudes get like ripped out of helicopters and get like eaten alive, and like
This is Avatar, right? Not
yeah,
Starship Troopers.
Avatar. No, I'm not like I'm right,
Yeah, that does happen in
but
Starship.
I think yeah, no, but I think as like seeing that as a 9-year-old, I kind of
Mhm.
had like a negative because I saw it in TV. I didn't see it in theaters because I was like I think I was scared of theaters as a kid because I was like
Yeah.
I don't know, I think crowds freaked me out. But I ended up watching this, and I think the worst thing I can say about this movie is that it's forgettable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like
yeah, probably.
I think
so,
like it hit hard when it came out, but it's kind of just fizzled out of
well,
popularity.
there's a lot of things that held up really well.
Mhm.
That I wasn't expecting to hold up as well as they did. And it was mainly the scenes where it was CGI on CGI that I
Mhm.
thought held up incredibly well. Like the landscapes were all awesome. Like there's the
Yeah.
scene where they
Oh yeah.
arrive in that giant space shuttle. And I was like, holy, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and then there's stuff that doesn't hold up well, where it looks like they're like jogging in front of a green screen. I think there's a
Yeah.
few, like
Yeah,
if you,
and some of the
yeah,
mocap is a bit dated, I thought.
yeah, which like a weird thing, it kind of has me excited to see what James Cameron does with these sequels, even though I think is
Yeah, same.
incredibly late to be doing them.
yeah.
Yeah, it's late to be doing them. Honestly, I'm just intrigued because of A, like what's he gonna do with the
Well,
CGI
I
and,
think
and
it
all that stuff. And
all
also
comes
the
down.
world is so rich and I think there's still a lot that he wanted to explore, which could be
Well,
interesting.
my speculation why it took so long is because Disney's been incorporating them into their franchise. Because I think beforehand, like he wanted to do sequels, but I think so. I forget. I think they were not owned by Disney when this movie first came out, so I think that was
Mhm.
an option. But now I think what they're going to try to do is have it coincide with the release of whatever park they open for it, because I
I
know
see.
they're building stuff on their parks from another like park
Yeah,
related
they have a
podcast.
Pandora Park in Florida. I know that. I didn't get to go to it, but I saw.
Yeah, I think they're building more like rides and stuff to go with it. But so I think that's kind of why there's sequels. But let's start let's go over this movie. Let's start by talking about it. So I'm gonna bring up my notes here real quick. Hopefully that didn't stop the recording. Okay, no, good. So I watched this second. So do you guys remember how the movie opens? Because I thought that was the strangest part about the movie.
I completely forgot that it began on Earth. Like I always forgot how the movie opened, but rewatching it was like really weird.
Did anybody also forget how long this movie was?
No,
Oh, yeah.
because that's the reason why I didn't like it as a kid, because it's hard to get a 9-year-old kid with ADD to sit in a theater for almost 3 hours. And
Yeah.
that's one of the
Yeah.
big things that makes me like apprehensive towards the movie.
Because I remember I sat down, I watched it, and I said, "Oh my god, 2 hours and 42 minutes, shit."
It goes
Um,
like when I rewatched it, it went by pretty quickly. It didn't like,
It did for me. I can't say it did for me.
like I
Um,
mean it's
so also I would say I think Jake, so like a similar area I wasn't expecting to find is this has the two dumbest lead characters I've ever seen in movies.
Oh, and both this and Starship
Jake
Troopers?
Sully's a moron. Can we agree on that?
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
he's a moron.
You know what would have
Um,
made this movie better? If the brother character who like died in the opening was
Mhm.
the main character.
Yes, like I feel like because it's coming from the perspective of somebody who is initially against or is not a neutral party is
Mhm.
weird. Like I feel like James Cameron has this problem where he's really not too great at. It seems like in his later days he's not getting good at doing blue collar characters, which is
Yeah.
funny because his best movies, in my opinion, are ones about he's like aliens and aliens is about these blue collar people.
Yeah.
Abyss, which I think gets kind of unfairly treated, is
Well,
a
like in Aliens, they're like normal people pretty much. They're like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're like blue collar workers, and they're like given a pretty grounded situation. Like we have this problem, we have to solve it. In Avatar, it's like you have to go into the Na'vi tribe and learn
Yeah.
their language, and
I-
then get inside and then broker a deal with them
So,
so we can
as
get
we go
their
farther into
unobtainium.
talking about
It's
this
like
movie,
crazy.
as we go forward talking about this movie, I'm going to say I don't think James Cameron understands like the history of colonization or mining as well as he thinks he does.
Mhm.
Because like honestly, I think one having two history nerds on here is going to help talk about this movie.
Yeah.
And two, I think we really need to start. So anyway, so this movie opens on this really cool, like you get him talk, his brother's being thrown into the incinerator. We find out he's on a wheelchair. And that, like, the one thing I thought was a pretty good motivation for him, but I thought it would have been better motivation for, like, if he was a villain, is
Mhm.
the fact he's in a wheelchair and needs this money for this surgery that would allow him to walk again.
Yeah. I want to go back real quick to the whole like brother thing because I just had a thought. I think the issue with this movie is you needed a really smart character to really get into like the whole like morality conflict because there's this whole
Right.
conflict of like the human beings need this unobtainium. By the way, dumb fucking name.
Yeah,
for
we're
it.
gonna get to
Yeah.
that. I have
Unobtainium.
like that the character and like all that. I have a whole thing on. But
Yeah,
unobtainium is probably the worst material. Like, why not call it Pandorium?
Right? Or why not just make it like oil or something? Actually, that'd probably be way too on the nose.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be like a little
on the
too on the nose.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yeah, but I want to say like by going to this alien world, oh my god, I completely lost my train of thought. Okay, hold on. Yeah, no, having like
Think.
smarter characters to like get the whole moral conflict, get into the whole moral conflict, which is like the human beings need this resource or else the earth is going to die. The aliens have this resource but it's under their tree and they don't want to give it up. So the humans are like, okay, well, we don't want to like fuck with their tree. So let's just like see if we can broker a deal. That's a great conflict. The problem is that James Cameron only shows us like the aliens' point of view. Like we're meant
Yeah.
to really hate the humans.
because actually,
is
and at the
bullshit,
end,
like-
and at the very end, they do give like some like yeah, Earth is kind of dying, and we need this
Yeah.
research. I'm like, oh shit, I'm now like that's the part where my mentality
Yeah.
like rewatch is like, oh, I kind of want the humans to win because as a
Right.
human,
And if the main character had that conflict, had that moral conflict where they
No.
didn't know who to side with, this movie would be infinitely more
I also
interesting,
think it would have been better like
Yeah.
if James Cameron stayed with this backstory. The one thing our main character Jake Sully is obsessed with, and he says in his opening dialogue, is flying.
Mhm.
Why wasn't he a pilot then? Like that would have been a much better arc. He was a pilot, crashed, disabled, like a military pilot of some sort, and they clearly need pilots on this planet they're on and with all the flying they do.
Yeah, it would
the
make
thing-
more sense.
And
Like the
plus-
whole like, why did he take over his brother's position again? Like, was he
It's
qualified?
so that I actually wrote this down because I wanted because it wasn't clear to me the first time. The Avatar are like kind of a mix of clones of the Na'vi and
Oh yeah.
them. So because he was his twin brother, they had the same genetic code, I guess. Which
Okay, I guess
isn't
that
really
makes
how.
sense.
Which I guess so. It's like I guess it kind of makes sense. Like well, we could use Marines. So he could get on this planet. Actually, before we get on the planet, he wakes up inside the ship. I thought that was a really cool scene.
Mhm.
Like showing them waking up and they're talking about the effects of hibernation and whatnot. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna be hungry, you're gonna be thirsty, you're gonna feel sick. I thought that was like it's James Cameron. Sometimes I think he focuses a little too much on those minor details. Because if another James Cameron movie, The Abyss, he really goes in depth on breathable
Yeah.
liquid. But the rest of the movies,
100%.
yeah.
All of his movies, for all of his science fiction movies, he goes really like Pandora has a huge
Yeah.
like mythos. Like there's so much backstory that's not even in the movie, which is
Yeah.
great. That's something I really admire about.
Yeah,
this film.
it's which is I'd love if it was in a better film.
Avatar 2.
Hey, fingers crossed, or 3 or 4 or 5.
One of them's got to be good.
Ooh, so we get into this. He meets Norm, and did you guys notice like a lot of these actors are like B movie actors or like kind of cheesy movie? Like they weren't a lot of very good actors in this movie. Sigourney Weaver, I think, was the like most notable.
She was like the standout
She was like
big name actors.
the only one I
other than
didn't
that-
have to Google watching this movie because
Yeah.
I don't remember. Like I know Stephen Lang just because he has a name that kind of sticks out. And did any of you other guys think he was really shiny while watching this?
Yes.
Like in every, because like I noticed the first scene we see him in, which is like a scene where he's like, everything on this planet wants to kill you.
Yeah.
We see him and he's really shiny, and I don't know if is he sweaty all the time? What's his
Movie-
deal?
The movie also has like kind of weird lighting with the human characters.
So I have a theory about that. I think they realized that the Avatar looked a little too smooth and shiny. So they did the lighting so the humans looked smooth and shiny. So the Avatar looked, or the Na'vi or whatever the aliens are called, looked a little less weird.
I guess.
That's the only thing that would make sense to me because I think you're right. It has really weird lighting,
Yeah.
and also
They're
they
also
get
shooting everything on like a green screen. So.
yeah, true. Which is I
Like
don't
they
know,
kind of look like the lighting kind of resembles the prequels. The
I
Star
think
Wars
this
prequels.
movie, yeah, you're right. I think this movie also kind of started something that I'm kind of starting to get sick of now with the state of modern movies, especially like we live in a post-Endgame, a post-Endgame world where every movie is a big blockbuster series. And I was thinking that this movie kind of started that, even though it's not had more series by itself. Because like I noticed like a lot of things in this movie, I saw patterns of like this kind of fight for resources and the good versus evil is like copied in Black Panther. Which like my least favorite plot line is like the war over some sci-fi resource thing. Because like it's just like a little overdone.
Yeah, I
Now-
think Avatar definitely could have started the trend. I mean, Avatar's borrowing from a lot of movies in the past, and I think these like the Marvel movies are borrowing from the same movies. But I think it showed that like this type of movie makes bank, right?
It makes
It's like it's kind of like what like we mentioned the Star Wars prequels. It's like what they tried to do with like building their digital world, but like I don't think at the time of those the prequels.
Yeah, we're gonna do an
really
episode
there
on the
yet
prequels not
technologically.
too soon from now, so
Oh, boy.
you'll get to get your thoughts on that.
But, yeah, I don't think we were really
yeah.
there 100% yet technologically at
Yeah.
the time those movies were coming out, but I think Avatar really hit it off with a bang with what we were able to do with
computer generation.
And it really set off a chain of events that led to
Because
what we're right now. Because even like this Avatar came out after like MCU had already started, but like Iron Man wasn't that like visually intense. It was mostly like practical. There's still like, of course, it's CGI, but then you had like the Incredible Hulk and everything like that.
which
It's still pretty toned down, but after that like 2009 is Avatar, and then you get a bunch of other crazy stuff, and it just like gets bigger and bigger with every year and every release. Not only with the MCU, but with movies in general.
So the next thing is in the plot, they get into the Avatar stuff pretty quickly, I think. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Like they get into showing off the what's the word I'm looking for? Showing off the technology behind that. I said something like, I feel like their transfer process, how the memory transfer, it would have been cooler if there was like some more physical aspect, like a needle into their head or something. Because I was thinking like in that the fact they just shut their eyes and they transfer bodies, I get like it's the easiest way to do that, but if like there was some sort of physical component to that, would have been more interesting.
Yeah, like I would like maybe if there's like more of a toll on the body, which there is a little bit.
There is, but they never really go into depth too
because
much
like
about it.
you see Jake Sully's like his body's kind of like he's getting thinner and he's like his body's getting weaker because he's spending a lot of time in Pandora, but like a more physicality within the human body and the Avatar body.
This movie's a really weird movie because I don't know who the target audience was for this.
Everyone saw it.
It really is because like there's things that are like kind of gruesome, kind of like adult oriented, but they're never like Stephen Lang, for example. His character goes into detail about how he has these scars on his face, but like, oh my god, this planet just made you look cooler. I feel so bad for how about like make him like a bit more human and have him like have his face be like completely screwed up on one side. It just it seemed like it seemed like they were really trying to go for we're gonna like really go in depth, and they pulled every punch they could.
Yeah. So I watched a video after I watched Avatar on like the score for it, and it's a very interesting video. I'll try to link it to you after the podcast. But there's a video about like Avatar's score and how like James Cameron asked James Horner, who did the score, like to create basically alien music, like create music that no one's ever heard before, like a new genre, like to represent these aliens. And every time they tried doing that, James Cameron was like, it doesn't sound right, and then tried to make the music more normal. And then in the end, he just screwed over their entire original score and just like threw in like a shitty, like the actual score that you hear in the movie.
Yeah. So
which is so ironic.
The first scene when he gets into his avatar, was anybody else like kind of find like the CG on that like because that's one of the first scenes we see, but there's people interacting with it. And I feel like that's the greatest downfall in this movie is whenever somebody's actually interacting with them, I'm like pulled out of it.
Yeah.
Because like you can clearly tell they're not looking at anything. Does that make sense? Or like they're not.
And that's part of the fear that I have with the trend of like growing reliance on CGI too, because it's always going to be dated at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like that's an element that like has been improved.
I have a roommate who's a really big Marvel fan, and we were talking about it. He's like, I think they're going to be timeless now. I said, I don't know, because I think CGI doesn't hold up. Like, just let's make a quickie comparison here. The original Star Wars movies, they use a lot of practical effects, and I think they still kind of hold. Like, it gets hokey at some points, but the effects still are kind of hold up for the movie.
Yeah, it still looks good. Like, of course, like
you know what movie has really good effects? Starship Troopers.
Yeah, actually, when we get into that, I like even CG that's like fairly decent.
The CG's it's
there's one scene with the CG
practical effects like one of those arcade on-rail shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the CG gets janky, but the practical effects are amazing.
Dude. So that's what I say. Like, I'm fine with you using like a fuckload of CGI as long as you incorporate like practical elements to like hide it and to make it feel more
Jake,
real.
I know what episode I'm having you on now. And I know what future episode I'm having you on now.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Mad Max episodes.
Oh shit.
So let's try to get through this summary of the movie. So we get into Avatar. It's pretty cool. We get him going and running, and like they're like, "No, you can't. You just got in it. You can't run." They're telling us not to run. And then we get Sigourney Weaver's character. And I don't know why this made me mad, but who's the company making the clothes for the avatars?
Oh yeah, her like red shirt,
the large Stanford shirt.
Yeah,
that's if it was just a red shirt, like okay, yeah, but there.
Yeah, I always wondered about that. Like, why is she wearing a shirt?
Stanford. Like, does Cameron
Like, did Sigourney Weaver, like, was this a Samuel L. Jackson? You know how Samuel L. Jackson was like, I want a purple lightsaber in the prequels? Was this just like
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver was like, I want a red shirt? Like,
Was it like a or no? I
Yeah.
was asking like, was it like a call? Like, did she go to Stanford? Like, the shirt didn't bother me. It was more of
Oh.
the fact that it was a Stanford shirt.
oh,
And it's just like it seems weird that they would print something that large unless like she got like an incredibly large men's shirt. I don't know. This also goes something that I feel like kind of the aliens are. I feel like I ended up looking on like cultural impacts of this, and I found out there's some creepy people who are like really attracted to the aliens from this
oh,
movie.
yeah.
There's always creepy people attracted to it.
There are, well, yeah, there's.
Yeah, I could also say I had a roommate. He's like, I don't know, the aliens from Avatar are pretty high. I was like,
Well, because they're like half naked.
yeah, pretty much. I'm like, why? Because they're just like, but like the thing is, I think the reason like they go in so far this uncanny valley is because they're fairly human looking, but they're
Yeah.
exaggerated. Like they're just
Yeah,
large.
they're supposed to look human because like I think it's supposed to be like it's trying to blur the line between how different we are from them. Like, of
Yeah.
course they're blue, they're big, but they also have
Well,
all these human features that are.
I don't know
supposed
if
to,
you
like,
guys would
I
agree
want
with
to
me.
see myself into this in this creature.
The insane size difference, I think, works against the movie. Because
Okay.
I think if you could have had people in mocap suits and like maybe stilts that were just slightly bigger and like the aliens are still stronger or something like that, you could have had moments where you had the people in their costumes there looking at the people in those suits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can tell like a lot of what they were doing was slating where, you know, you have one frame that is like the guys reacting like, hey, look, there's one, shoot it.
Yeah.
And the other scene is the person in her mocap suit like, oh no, I'm getting shot.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I like the detail that they're like big.
Yeah.
But
I just don't know. I think that kind of works
Yeah.
against the movie. Is what
for
I'm
the
trying to say.
production, it was
Mhm.
definitely a hurdle that I don't know they overcame.
So he wakes up. God, I think, like I said, the hardest thing about this movie is it's incredibly okay. I know what happens after this. Fucking unobtainium is my next note. So we have this whole scene where Sigourney Weaver, like, does anybody remember why Sigourney Weaver's pissed at what's his name? Oh, because the Jarhead. Yes, she's pissed at not the general. What's the guy's name? I know his character's name is Parker. Does anybody know that? The CEO.
Oh, Selfridge, not selfish, even though that's what he is. Selfridge. Got to be
Parker
subtle,
Selfridge.
guys.
And he's playing like. So I don't know if you guys felt this way, but there is another actor who was alive at the time who should have played this character that was not the guy who played it,
Mhm.
and who James Cameron has worked with. Okay.
I don't know.
Bill
what that is.
Paxton should have done this. Sorry, I got
Dude,
popped up.
Bill Paxton would have been perfect. Holy shit.
If Bill Paxton was in this movie, it would be the best movie of all time. And I think he either should have been that guy
I mean,
or
yeah.
he should have been Stephen Lang's character. But I think he would have been really good as that CEO
I
character
would
because
dude, I would have loved him as
he would have
Stephen
chewed
Lang's
the
character, yeah.
shit out of every scene he was in.
Yeah, dude, Bill Paxton's awesome. I
Can we
miss
do
him.
like
yeah.
can we like revive Bill Paxton and have a version of this that's just Bill Paxton? as every
You don't
character?
want to do
The
that because
Bill
that means
Paxton
that there's going to be a CGI Bill Paxton.
I know, true. James Cameron, don't watch this podcast.
Oh wait, that's a good idea.
Write that down. Write that down.
Anytime Avatar's mentioned, James Cameron gets a hard on, so he might watch this. I really do feel like this. What?
I said I just wanted to say hi to James
Give us Shabs.
or Mr. Cameron. I'm sorry, we're not on a first name basis yet. That was rude.
Yeah. So we get this scene where she's pissed off that she has a security detail at all. And I realize he's the only military person that's in these Avatar suits. Wouldn't you want more military guys or like mercenaries in there? Because it's a dangerous planet. Like, regardless of like, well, it's overseeing our mission for science. I'd want some people with guns surround. Like, this planet constantly tries to kill everyone in it.
Mhm.
Like she makes a big deal. Like, we only need one idiot with a machine gun when they're going into the forest. But like, they get attacked instantly by like this giant panther thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what your guys had thought on that, but I just felt that way watching that.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some weird writing.
so
For
it
sure.
kind of, I thought the movie was short because it does dive into like him going into the Avatar world really fast.
Mhm.
Where we get him quickly. So we have this whole thing that like Sigourney Weaver's character's all pissed off about the CEO guy sending Jake because Jake's not a scientist. They go and we're met. What's the name of the pilot chick from Fast and the Furious? That's the only thing I know her from.
Something Rodriguez.
Yeah,
I
so
forget.
right, I know her name's like Trudy in this,
Yeah.
which is a weird name for a pilot. Like that's a grandmother name, and I feel like I thought she was again like it's another B movie type actor who's
Yeah,
in
she's
this.
definitely a B movie actress.
Yeah, like
She's in Fast and Furious. Yeah.
yeah, I think like the one Fast and Furious movie she wasn't in, she was in because she wasn't in because she was in this movie. I think I want to say. So I think they did that whole like, oh, she's dead, but she's not dead. It's timeline. Um, and I thought the really interesting thing about like her character actually had the most interesting arc, even though it's like she might have 10 minutes of screen time the entire damn movie. But we're introduced to her. They go into this forest and they're researching. And we also see a minor character, this unnamed soldier who I just referred to as Jackass Soldier, because he comes up a lot in this movie. He's the bald dude that goes on the mission with them, and
Oh yeah.
he has his own little subplot of just being a dick. Because from the first scene, he's the guy who like I think calls Jake Sully, hey look, Meals on Wheels, and then
Yeah.
this guy, I don't know if like James Cameron knew this guy or like this guy is just a good actor at being a dick. But anytime there's like, hey, we need a dick in the scene, get Jim over from accounting. He's a dick. He could play this role. Because he shows up and like he has a kind of a distinctive face, so it's like, oh, it's the
Mhm.
same guy, and he does eventually die, but he's doing different things in every scene.
Yeah.
So they go in and he gets like kind of bored, and he goes and there's this whole standoff with the hammerhead shark rhino thing.
Yeah.
Which I guess brings me on to a major point about this movie. I know James Cameron is like very into diving, and
Yeah.
I'm a pretty big scuba diver myself, and I can very much see like, oh yeah, this is a cool concept. But because he has this obsession with like the ocean, I think, and I think he also has this mutual fear of it.
Mhm.
And I think this movie was kind of his way of talking about that, especially parts like when this giant hammerhead shark thing attacks them, or not
Yeah,
attacks them, and then the panther thing attacks them, and that just felt really quick.
Yeah.
um,
yeah. Now that you mentioned that, a lot of Pandora does feel like the underwater brought to the surface. Like especially like the part with like the bioluminescent forest.
yeah, well, that's how I interpret it. Like,
It's
because
gorgeous, but there's also like all these like dangerous creatures, and it's kind of an exploration of the unknown in a really interesting way. So a lot of that like
yeah,
a lot and a lot of those creature designs do look like they're based off underwater creatures.
yeah, like if
Yeah.
you want a really underwater world, go underwater. It's like because I've seen the most like alien stuff in the world under just like 40 feet below surface. Um,
Mhm.
so then Jake Sully gets separated from the group, and we meet the alien chick who he doesn't give any of the aliens or anybody easy names to remember,
Yeah.
which is
No.
something that really worked against this movie. So I gave everybody nicknames.
Right. Well, I
Um,
think it's fine still that he did that because he
yeah,
wants to make it like rich alien lore, and I think that's fine. There are a lot of choices in this movie that, like, as a screenwriter, I'd be like, I wouldn't suggest doing that. But as like creating this world, it's like, okay, if you
yeah.
really want to get realistic
I
about
feel
it,
like if this was a book, a
Yeah.
lot of the decisions he made would be better, like to go as far in depth with the names and
yeah, I
things
think
like
this would
that.
make for a great book for sure.
Yeah, like that would actually be a really
Read the
good book.
novelization.
Yeah, maybe. Um, so then he gets attacked by these tiny wolf spider things. I don't know like wolf lizards. How would you
Yeah.
describe them? And we're introduced to her because she saves his life. Um, just to remind, and then takes him back to the village, and then like the entire village is incredibly pissed off at him because they
Mhm.
don't like the sky people.
Is that the scene where he's like, "Oh, hey, thanks for saving me," and she gets pissed off at him because he's like,
Yes.
"This is sad."
She calls him he calls him a baby or infant over and over again.
That's a scene I actually really like.
Does anybody else notice her English gets significantly better over the because she starts out on this like very primal, which I like is something as like we're all screenwriters here, and as a screenwriter, I get like you sometimes have an idea like I'm gonna have this guy talk like this, and then you kind of give up like, cause damn, this is hard.
Yeah, it gets annoying after a while. But
Jake, I think you're frozen right now.
Am I frozen?
Yeah, there you go. You're back.
You're back.
Oh.
You were just, I could tell if you were dead staring at me or you're frozen.
Sorry, everyone in my house is using a internet. Oh, my internet.
Oh boy.
Oh. Am I
I'm really
frozen?
losing. Yeah, you're really. So I'm just while we're resolving your issue, I'm gonna go on to the next part of this movie.
Tell me when I unfreeze.
Okay. So when that's where we're also introduced to the chief of the tree people, because their clans like the mother tree live in this mother tree thing, and he instantly just wants to murder Jake Sully, which is good instinct. I think that's really good instinct. But then he says actually a funny line trying to save his own life. He's I'm Jake Sully from the clan Jarhead, which is kind of funny, I thought. Just he's, I was like, I think it's something on the fly. But also, that's not like Marines don't often refer to themselves as Jarheads. So it's this another interesting thing I know is about James Cameron. He vaguely understands military jargon enough to mimic it really well, which is something I probably do myself in anything I've written before. But like he vaguely understands enough to mimic it because like in Aliens, he has that same thing. So anyway, then we have the shaman who pokes him with that thing, tastes his blood, but they never explain why she does that. And determines.
It's for Avatar. It's actually setting up for Avatar 5.
Yes. So then, they decide, okay, we're going to teach you our ways very casually. So then he wakes up and, he tells Sigourney Weaver, you're not going to believe where I am. And then he goes and tells Stephen Lang, like, hey, I have an in with these aliens. And they're like, okay, good. In 3 months or so, you can figure out how to do this and this and this so we can move in and mine our unobtainium. Which, again, Bill Paxton should have been in there. Because that scene when they're scrolling, I heard Bill Paxton's voice, like, go farther, 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 farther. Ah, stop, go back. Because, like, I don't know. Bill Paxton should have played that character. That's my tree I'm dying on. Is Bill Paxton was alive, and he should have played that character because he would have just been amazing at it. Then there's the we get this kind of montage of them flying out to the floating mountains, which was the one scene from every trailer and poster of this movie, and we get the very long training montage. I feel I'm forgetting to bring up something. So they go to this place called the Shack. I think that's what they called it. And that's where they have these other avatar room things. And Jake's training, he becomes a avatar person, so he has to wear their wear. And just like reaffirming a part I actually thought was pretty funny was like during this like clearly like kind of moment where nobody's talking in this tribe, he won't shut up and keeps talking in a language none of these people understand except for maybe 5 of them. And it just anyway allows us to find out more about them. We then go into his training. He learns how to ride those horse things, and we meet the warrior dude. Do we know who I'm talking about? Warrior dude.
Warrior dude?
Yeah, the warrior dude. He's like not the father, the warrior dude. And he's just like, I hate Jake Sully. This guy's a jackass. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with you, dude. So he's like, just adversarial. Then we go through training. He learns how to shoot bows, and then we get to this there's a huge chunk.
This is where the movie just becomes a mesh to me.
I honestly I'm describing. I'm like, I feel like I'm forgetting massive swaths of this movie because I think that a lot of this
it just blends together at that point.
Been condensed to a montage. And then
you want to know I think a big issue with this movie is that, am I freezing? I think a big issue with this movie is that a lot of these montages could have been like cut up. Like there are really effective edits in movies where like you'll
Mhm.
cut from one thing to another and you like understand, okay, this is how the progression happened, and it connects in your mind. Like
Yes.
what's a good example? I don't know, but if they'd cut from like him like meeting all these
I feel
people
like
ready to train, cut to the end of the montage, just like hard cut to him like on a horse, and we're like, okay, you learned how to ride the horse. Like it's more effective, and it cuts out a lot of that filler. And like I don't know, I think it would have helped the movie a lot if they'd done
that's one
stuff
thing
like
I
that.
actually like about Marvel movies is they tend to do their montages
Yes,
fairly well.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
That's
and
great.
that's coming from somebody who's not a huge fan of them, but like Ant-Man is like my favorite of those movies, and they
Yeah.
have a good training.
Luis.
Yeah. Yo, so actually, I wish I could hire that guy to explain this movie.
Right.
So anyway, we get to the scene
Hilarious.
where they finally get to ride the dragon things.
Mhm.
And we through all this time too, we keep getting. This is a part I forgot to mention. So the video logs. We first get him explain that this dialogue we're hearing the entire long is actually his video logs.
Oh
But there's a
yeah, I
point where
wanted to.
he
Yeah.
turns to them and he says, "So I just talk at this video thing." Because he's such a fucking idiot. He
Yeah.
doesn't know
Right.
how to use a vlog.
Oh,
Like,
it's so dumb. Also, am I the only one who thought that the voiceover in this movie was like really bad?
I thought it was jarring, and I feel like it was because he like when they did those scenes last, I imagine.
Mhm.
So he's probably like, oh no, yeah, he's reading, and he probably wasn't that like he
Yeah,
wasn't
they
that
feel
inspired.
really like tagged on. Like they really didn't need that, and it would have the movie
Which
like.
makes me wonder if those.
I
Weren't
know why
in
they
it.
did it though. I know why they did it because this movie needed to make a fucking ton of money, and there's no way the audience like they need to make like the voiceover for the dumb people in the audience. Like that's exactly why they did that. They threw it in last minute
Yeah, exactly. I
because
think that was.
how are the dumb people supposed to understand the progression of the plot? And it's
But I still like. I was like, I got so frustrated with turns. So I just talk at this thing and explain what
yeah,
I
that's
did
such bad
that
writing.
day.
Yeah,
And
it's a shame because like I think at the heart of this movie is actually like a pretty solid story. Like it's nothing groundbreaking, but like I
yeah,
think this could have been like a pretty
yeah.
good movie, and like he could have expressed everything he wanted to. He could have gotten across all this cool CGI, but it's littered with so much dumb stuff because they had to dumb it down for the audience, which is such a shame. Like,
Yeah. So we have
And
him.
that's a problem I don't think is going to be remedied with the sequels, considering how much of a hit at the
yeah,
box office it was. So they're going to be
yeah, you're probably
trying to
right.
I don't
garner
know,
the
but they
largest
make it
box
sound like that was the last time. So I wonder if the sequels, maybe we just do get like a bit more of a forward story without all this exposition.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
but
I
like,
can see that because we already know the worlds now. But then this is also gonna like they also have to accommodate for the
well,
people
it seems
around.
so.
It's a lot.
I'll get to this when we get closer to it. So we get anyway this dragon flying scene, which is actually pretty nice. It's pretty cool. But again, he's yelling out all the things he has to think, like fly, bank
Right?
right,
Yeah.
bank left. Because again, you're right. It is like, well, we need to make sure. Honestly, it's like we need to make sure the children in the audience understand what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And then there's we get blah blah blah. We go on and on. She shows him the forest. I feel like there's some other stuff I'm missing here again. We get he goes back once more, Stephen Lang, and he shaves off his beard. I think this is what you're talking about, where we start to see the toll because he's like his hair has gone crazy. He has this huge. He has Jacob's beard.
Absolutely.
And so he has to shave, and he goes back to Stephen Lang. Stephen's like, so any progress? He's like, no. Which brings me up to something. He never explains the situation going on to the Na'vi of why why the humans need these resources. Because I feel like if he said, hey, my people are dying and we need these resources in order to keep ourselves from dying, there could have been a solution.
Yeah.
And actually,
what
I,
James
like
Cameron
this,
was also
I
doing.
can't say I pointed this out because I was I was watching how it should have ended, I guess, because I was also watching Avatar. It came up in my suggested, and they say that like, hey, didn't you ever explain? Like they have that when the audience go, why were they fighting us? And one of the scientists goes, you never explained to them why we wanted the resources. And he goes, oh no, I kind of hooked up with the alien chicken, which anyway brings me to my next part of this movie, the weird hair sex scene.
Yeah.
Which,
I like it.
again, for a movie that was made for everyone, this is one of those moments where it felt a little, I don't want to say mature, but it just felt like, I feel like as a kid, I felt uncomfortable
That
watching
scene
it.
was for the adults in the audience.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and the weird people who are attracted to Na'vi.
So,
If they weren't before, they are now.
Exactly.
yeah, that was. I feel like that was like weirdly misplaced, and like at first it's like, oh, they just kissed, and then like there's the next scene after. So the bulldozers show up, and this was the part where I realized Bill Paxton should have been playing the CEO guy, because there's the guy who's dressed like a truck driver operating the drone bulldozer, which I thought was actually kind of cool, because they have these giant bulldozers that make no sense. They're like plowing through this forest, this sacred tree. And I love what what's his, and Jake jumps up, he punches it, destroys it. But I love that, what's his name, Parker, Selfish, is goes, and he's like, no, we keep going, we're plowing this over. Because I feel like Bill Paxton would have done a great job with that. Anyway, so she wakes him up, because there's that great scene where he has to eat breakfast before he goes into the Avatar, which was so pointless that we had to see that. So then, they run back to the village. They're like, well, we're going to try you both and tie you up here, because they are pulled out of the Avatar things by Stephen Lang, who flew there really quickly. I want to say he flew there really quickly, because like that was a day's journey for the main group of people who went there to go to originally with the Fast and Furious pilot chick. So these dudes, they come and they grab him, they punch what's his name in the face, Jake Sully in the face when they wake him up, and they take him back. They yell at him, and they arrest them, and they go back again to try to talk some sense in them. And they go back into the aliens, and they try to say, hey, you have to leave because Stephen Lang is about to gas your village, which is something like they lob tear gas in at them, right? And I feel like I'm skipping over stuff, but I can't remember much at this point. They lob this tear gas in, and they eventually shoot down the life tree, and they take and they try to, and I think the chieftain or whatever they call him dies, the father, and they have to flee to another sacred tree. And the one guy points out, good point, it seems like in this forest, you throw a stick, you'll hit a sacred tree, and that stick was also sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, I think around when this came out, The Simpsons did a parody of it, and they did a joke where it's like, he throws it, somebody rips up a flower, and they go, that sacred flower, he throws it, that sacred flower hit the sacred tree, then he smacks his head against the rock, he says, don't hit brother rock, because it was in this movie, it seems like everything was so sacred.
Yeah, and like he brings up a good point, like why do they say everything is sacred? And I mean, then of course Sigourney Weaver refutes that, is like, no, there's like a neural network between all of this, and if we destroy it, it could have really bad impact on the environment.
But
to
they
which
do
the general
destroy
is
it.
like, we don't fucking care, we just want our
Yeah,
opinion.
and like they do destroy it, and there's no insignificant impact on their environment.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think the suggestion was like, if we do this, it's gonna like the network is gonna want revenge, and that's what leads to the animals coming in.
Yeah,
Because it has this idea that Pandora is kind of like the planet itself is
alive,
kind of like living organism.
Yeah.
Where like damaging one part has like a huge consequence on the rest of because everything is interconnected, everything is sacred because like of the connection that they have with nature, that they have with the planet.
They wake Jake up, they punch the dude, and the nerdy looking dude in the face, Norm, I remember that's his character's name, Norm, who is like, again, probably the most insignificant character to this whole thing. He was there to make like a few jokes, and that's it. Because there's like this whole one moment earlier on was like, and now Norm's coming around on me. I was like, was this guy against you at any point? Like they never make it seem like Norm hated him, but in his like video logs, he's like, oh, Norm doesn't hate me now. I was like, but you never did that, which makes me wonder
probably
if there was
deleted scene.
Yeah, deleted scenes or something. So Sigourney Weaver and them all escape the prison because the pilot, she didn't want to blow up the tree, which was actually like, yeah, it would be pretty horrific to be bombarding a populated village essentially with missiles. Like that part was actually pretty like, yeah, that would be, I'd change. I feel like more than just her would change their mind about gunning down thousands of people.
Yeah, the destruction scene is actually like pretty good. Like
Yeah,
I do like that sequence a lot.
but
It's kind of like the part in Titanic where the ship
yeah.
sinks, like the last third
But
of the
much like
movie.
Titanic, I didn't really care about these characters because James
Yeah,
Cameron
sure.
didn't give us much reason to care about Jake Sully or Blue Alien Chick or any of them.
Yeah, but he still makes it like a powerful
Yeah,
statement, like putting in a lot of detail, a lot of really good, like
yeah.
yeah.
So then we get ready, and then he goes, and he, of course, is the one who's able to rally these people. Because this is I love that. He says, we're going to show them this land is ours. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so Sigourney Weaver dies, too.
Yeah.
He had a very pointless death.
They
serves
kind
as a
of threw
plot
that in. Yeah, they kind
it
of threw
serves
that
as a
in.
plot device later on. But I
Mhm.
kind of feel like that was an executive note, like, hey, kill off one of the main characters.
Yeah, probably.
But it kind of does serve as a bit of a plot note towards the end there. So we get this whole thing where, and then they point out is like, so he goes and he gets all these other tribes. And I think when they're showing them going to those different places, I think the next movies are all going to be about those different places they showed. Because I know the next one they're making water sets for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like they showed like a group of Islander Na'vi, and I think that's what the next one's going to be all about. And he's doing mocap underwater for the next one, which is insane. And he's like, he has mocap balls on the water. They showed some pictures. It looks insane. Anyway, so besides his Avatar 2, so we go to this tribes, and Cephas is like, hey, we weren't really caring about this before, but now there's like 20,000 of these guys, so we have to do something about this. So essentially, Jake's the one who provokes this to get further violence.
Mm-hmm.
Is a moment I realized, oh, Jake Sully's the one who's provoking further war. So we then get to the scene where they're getting ready and they go rally all, and then the humans are building bombs, which is like they build. I think it's the one guy puts daisy cutters, which daisy cutter is a bomb that bursts in the air, so it causes more like damage and havoc. It's like an anti-personnel mine. It's kind of what they use to drop napalm on people in Vietnam. So besides my war nerd moment there, we get to this battle scene, and instantly we show up, and the humans, like, they're all mobilizing, and we get the avatars flying into battle. Jake has his machine gun, and so does the other guy, Norm, on the ground. And then it goes pretty quickly from, oh, we're able to shoot arrows into their canopies, to they get owned by the humans pretty easily. Because I think all the people who are charging them on the ground get killed by those giant robots with machine guns and bayonets. And then we have the whole part where they're diving onto the helicopters and attacking them, and there's the big one with the bombs. They're trying to get on. It's a space shuttle from earlier. They've turned into a bomber. And this was one of those scenes where I said, like, it didn't look right, where the one Na'vi, the warrior dude, jumps on and he's like swinging and clubbing guys out of the way, because like it kind of it looked like sometimes it looked okay, but other times it looked like the guy wasn't reacting to him hitting it. Which I don't know if that makes sense. And then it goes to the ground, and there's this moment where they think they're going to lose, and then all of a sudden the planet decides to unleash the nature against that, which I felt was like very cartoonish. This whole like
I've been trying to find ways to justify it, to like say, okay, it makes sense, or like it kind of works in theory, but I don't know. Even if it did make sense, the execution of it is really just oof.
And remember, it's like after Grace is dead and she's become part of the world, he goes and he says, Grace, if you're there, ask the mother, send us some help. So, we get the huge charge of these rhino hammerhead sharks and all these other things. And that's when the one soldier dude who's recurring just to be a dick gets stomped to death by it.
Yeah.
And this is a scene, like, there's some horrific deaths for the humans in this scene. Like, one guy gets eaten by one of those dragon things. People are getting thrown out of the helicopters.
But it's great because the aliens are getting their revenge on the bastard humans.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. We're humans. Hey, wait, hold on. Aren't we humans?
What?
Yeah, this is like the lead up to why people are so xenophobic in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, remember that time a bunch of us got murdered on that planet with all the blue naked people? And that's what turned us into this.
Soul One Universe.
Yeah. Then so anyway, the battle goes on. The aliens get the tide. They lost because Jake Sully with a hand grenade blows up the giant spaceship.
Oh yeah,
Even though
that
like
was dumb.
I was thinking it was so close to their life tree. If it crashed there, filled with explosives that burst in the air and shoot shrapnel down and fire, at that point it would have like hit their tree, right? Because it was so close that when it blew up, it should have like I don't know. I guess
You know what's annoying about this movie? Sam Worthington, Jake, he's such a passive character. Like he doesn't he doesn't make a lot of really like hard decisions that actually positively affect the plot. Like he's not the one who saves the day at the end.
No.
Like the planet like rescues him. It's a Deus
Yeah.
Ex Machina.
Yeah.
And like his whole shtick of like
Honestly, it's very
even
similar
make-
to Starship Troopers, where he got horny, so he decided to join these people in their fight.
Right, yeah. And well, no, actually Starship Troopers, like the reason like that's actually a surprisingly active character. He actually makes a lot of really tough decisions, like despite his parents
Me and you
telling
were
him,
gonna go
"Don't
back and forth on this."
Everyone like Verhoeven is still showing you like he's
Yeah.
brainwashed to the point where
Yeah.
he thinks he has to do this.
Yes. Me and you are
And
gonna
then-
have some back and forth on that.
Yeah, and then in this movie, like Sam Worthington just like joins the program because it's like, oh, my brother died, I have to go.
So then we get to this. So then anyway, so Stephen Lang is in the fight. He like stabs the panther thing that the Navi chick is riding to death, and then he's
That's
about
fun.
to kill her. And then he realizes Jake Sully's in the compartment thing because he conveniently finds it right there. Like you think they would hide that closer to the life tree or something?
Yeah,
So
that was so weird to me.
Yeah, it seems very convenient that he found it right there. So he's like, I'm going to kill him by breaking the glass windows. And then what's her name? You're right. He's very passive because he doesn't defeat Stephen Lang. When the robot pulls the knife, I just wrote robot knife in all caps.
Right?
Because I thought that was so dumb. Like, who made this knife for this robot? Like,
yeah. That doesn't make any sense either. Holy shit.
And then, there's the whole thing where also there's a lot of scenes where they show Stephen Lang how long he could hold his breath in this movie. Because there's the scene where he shoots at them and kills Sigourney Weaver. Because he's like, and I have this habit where if I see someone holding their breath in the movie, I try to hold my breath with them. And it was a pretty long time. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that.
No, but I will now.
So she shoots an arrow and it kills him because he had to pull off the protective shield thing. Even though it seems like those arrows earlier on were going through all those protective shields like glass.
Yeah.
Like the protective shields are very inconsistent because when they're defending the mother tree, it's like impossible to go through one of those things. But then when they're attacking them, it goes through like, a needle through plastic. Anyway, so, they win. Stephen Lang's dead. And my dad pointed out something weird because he's like, if he died, why does the robot fall over?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't the robot just stay there like that? And then we get the ending where the humans are sent back, and how it should have ended does this really funny joke where, like, the moment the humans leave, they're like, "I say we nuke it from orbit," because they don't need the planet to live; they just need the rock.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that'd be the greatest FU from James Cameron. These next 4 movies are great, and then he ends the 5th one, and the humans just nuke it from orbit.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah, like screw it, we tried bombing.
Yeah. Yeah,
so we get the ending. Yeah. His old body dies and he becomes Avatar, which makes me interested on how they're gonna go about the sequels. I'm actually very interested to see the sequels.
All new characters. Actually, that's not true. They're all scheduled to be in every single.
Stephen Lang's scheduled to come back.
Probably in flashbacks, I would hope.
Yeah, flashbacks or like as a ghost, something. Oh god, we're gonna get
ghost of Stephen Lang.
We're gonna get Force Ghost in this universe.
Yeah, right.
Use the Force, Jake.
If you die on Na'vi, you develop a Force Ghost.
Yeah, seriously. So now let's talk about our next movie,
Starship Troopers.
Woo!
Hey.
So I'm gonna ask you guys, like, how were you all introduced to this movie?
Yeah,
I know you were introduced to it by me.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was somebody I worked with told me about it.
Mm-hmm. I like I have a huge list of movies to watch, and that was just on it, so I watched it.
Yeah. So this movie is made by Paul Verhoeven, and where James Cameron is a technical genius and knows how to make a movie beautiful despite its plot line, Paul Verhoeven knows how to make a bad movie on purpose or a cheesy movie on purpose.
Here's the first thing I should mention about Starship Troopers and Avatar and the difference between them. Avatar is not self-aware at all.
No,
Starship
not.
Troopers, one could make the argument, is too self-aware.
Starship Troopers, the way I've always seen it, is a movie made by a fascist sci-fi universe beamed back to us.
Here's the thing. Paul Verhoeven is like, he read the book and he read the first few pages of the book and put it down and said, this book is depressing. It's too right-wing. I was reading trivia on it.
I've read the book, and the book is written by a guy who really loved the idea of military fascism.
Mm-hmm.
Like the things they pass off in that movie as jokes or like as like, hey, this is kind of a bad thing, but we're going along with it.
Yeah.
The guy believes in the book 100%.
See,
he also the guy
the
who wrote
movie
the book.
the movie is basically making fun of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're satiring something nobody knows about.
I had no idea there was a book until right now.
Yeah, I actually kind of recommend it because it is it's an interesting, like, oh, this is what somebody who's fascist thinks. And I know people are really right-wing who love this movie, but they don't understand the satire.
You don't realize
it's kind of the beautiful thing.
Because it's really
well, which makes this movie, like, if living in a post-9/11 world, like, we all grew up post-9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we were all born before it, but we grew up post-9/11. How relevant is this movie? Like anything we've learned about the Iraq War.
Yeah.
You know, every time a missile from Iran hits a Saudi cargo ship, how, like, relevant does this movie feel right now?
Right?
It's so much a representation of, like, the over-glorification of war.
Yes. Oh,
and
dude.
It's I think it serves as, like, a great satire, and I love the propaganda scene.
Yeah, so
like,
let's
to, like, a
propaganda. Let's talk about the very opening scene, which is just people getting mutilated.
Yes.
We have this news report. We're here on Kandatu.
Yeah.
And then it goes right into the propaganda. Join today.
Yeah, right?
And it was very reminiscent of, like, the Marine and military commercials of those times.
I think the movie as a whole is, like, meant to be a like, it's this world's propaganda to join the military.
This movie,
and we're watching it like, holy fuck, this is fucked up.
Paul Verhoeven saying, hey, this is what happens in the future when this world becomes fascist, and this is a film sent back from them, like, in time. And
yeah, exactly. Like, that's what it feels like.
And, you know, so Tyler, you probably know this, but, like, Nazis propaganda didn't really like these dramatic, over the top war movies. They liked, like, these romances and comedies and, like, political-esque movies that were about things like, you know, you have this soldier who's deeply in love with a girl at home, so he comes back and wins her over. But there's all the stuff is throughout there.
But well, yeah, they also did the thing where it's like with, the way the Nazis and both, like, in, like, the world in Starship Trooper handled the enemy, I think was
yeah, because Nazis have this,
because like when you see Nazi propaganda about Jews, it's like, look at these monsters.
It's disgusting, right?
Yeah, and it's very similar to how they treat the bugs.
Well, and also, so in a similar way, the enemy is always stronger than us but weaker than us. That's a very Nazi propaganda thing.
Yeah.
Which is something this movie is kind of very, like, scary, because I see it a lot now, where it's like, we see a lot, like, especially right-wing propaganda, where it's like our enemy is stronger than us but weaker than us. It's terrifying. It's
military, yeah.
So then we get this opening, and then it goes to Johnny Rico drawing this picture of him and
Johnny Rico, who lives in Buenos Aires, Argentina, who's
the whitest Argentinian.
They're all white. Which is such a
weird.
fucking. I remember the first time I watched this movie, I didn't, because I was in high school. I was a fucking idiot. I didn't catch on to any of that. I was like, why are they white? Why are they white? And now I'm like, oh, like, oh my god, it's so like, perfect. Like
Yeah,
Verhoeven,
like
every
I
decision
didn't realize
that
they were in
Verhoeven
Buenos
makes.
Aires until like
well,
they were
so
like about to leave.
I want to know if you
Yeah.
guys knew this. Paul Verhoeven grew up in Holland in World
Yes,
War II.
he was living
His
under
backyard was
Nazi
a
occupation.
fucking
Yeah,
no. His backyard was a launch pad for the V2 rockets. So I
exactly.
think he has like this weird kind of like obsession with fascism, which just seems like he has
Yeah,
this.
well, this is such a personal movie to him, which is what makes it so fucking good in
And
my
I think
opinion.
because I
Like,
think he had that propaganda fed to him as a kid probably.
yeah,
And I
no,
think this is it's kind of like if you ever have like an alcoholic talk about drinking,
mhm.
or like a person who was in a cult talk about being in a cult. They don't talk about all the bad shit. They talk about the good stuff a lot of times. Like, oh yeah, drinking was awesome. I did this, but then I put my car through my neighbor's front lawn. Or somebody who's in a cult. Like there's these videos of people who are in cults where it's like, oh yeah, I did this, and it's pretty. I think he's still kind of obsessed with fascism and like secretly loves it, even though he outwardly hates it.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
think he despises it, and I think that this film is a biting satire about like militarism and fascism and jingoism, and like that whole concept of like, you are meant to serve your country, you are meant to like
right.
fight as an infantryman. Like the film as a propaganda piece is glorifying like the infantryman, the guy who goes out and dies.
Yes,
Like these
it's
people are the
not-
greatest part.
yeah.
They're the heart of the army. He literally says. And the actual movie that Verhoeven is directing, is
Mhm.
making fun of that. It is like a
Yeah.
complete mockery of these people who like these like
Yeah.
blind sheep who like
So
follow orders and die.
Let's
for
go.
no
Let's keep going
purpose.
through this movie because I feel
Yeah.
like we could get off set because then we're going to talk about these movies and what stands out when
Right,
we're
yeah.
done summarizing them. So we get this whole high school love story, which I find it interesting, where we have Carmen, who is smarter than him. This is something I think is like in a lot of propaganda things. Like you have these two ideal people, and Paul Verhoeven was smart. He picked these people from like TV shows that were like, those high school drama, soap opera type shows.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they're all like Johnny Rico and
Like, they're
Carmen are,
all 30.
perfect. Yeah, but they're like aesthetically perfect people.
Yeah, like,
they're basically fucking models. It's
yeah,
so,
like what's her name? The chick who plays Carmen was a model. Like I don't think she
Oh,
was an
yeah,
act-
absolutely.
I don't think
Denise
she
Richards.
didn't act before this. I think
I think she was a Bond girl too.
Yeah, I think
What?
so. I think she's like a later Bond girl, but not.
Yeah,
I think
after
she's
this
like
movie.
yeah, a Pierce Morgan or
Mhm.
whatever his name was, Bond girl. And then there's Dizzy who was in another Verhoeven movie. I think she was in not Basic Instinct. What's the other one he did? Showgirls. Is that another one of his?
Oh, yeah.
I think
I-
she's
I-
in that.
I was looking at like his IMDb and I was like, oh god, I don't know if I should watch Showgirls or not. And then I saw
Yeah.
that Al McLaughlin is in it, and I'm like, all right, I have to watch it now.
Hey, just learned a lot about Jacob right there.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
Is
he's
that
great. I
what
love
you're
Twin
into?
Peaks. Yeah.
That's what you're into, Jacob.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah.
He's a Twin Peaks. I love him.
Oh, wait, I thought
I'll watch any movie he's in.
Well, I think a funny thing about like movies like Basic Instincts or Showgirls, like what these movies are for him, and violence are
Mhm.
his movies of talking about sex in America, how everything
Yeah.
becomes a commodity.
Well, yeah. I mean, Verhoeven is really good at like satire, which is
I
why
think-
I'm wondering if Showgirls is like going to be kind of similar, where like it's
I
self-aware.
don't
But
think
I don't
it
know.
really is. I think
I have
the
no
studio
idea,
got
'cause
a
I've
lot of
heard-
control.
Yeah, I've heard horrible things about.
I
that
think
movie.
he didn't
I hear-
make any more movies because of Showgirls. That's one of the things.
Well, no, he made this after Showgirls.
Oh,
he made
did he?
Starship Troopers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and
like
he made a bunch of movies after Starship Troopers. Like
maybe
he's
I'm
still making
thinking
movies.
something else. Then I know there
I
was
think
one
his
movie
last
that
movie
people,
came out 2016. L. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'm
yeah,
thinking.
no,
I'm thinking someone else. Sorry.
I rewatched RoboCop fairly recently too,
Yeah.
and that movie's like
gonna
totally
be on the
satire about like corporatism and
I have some bad news and some good news for you on this series. We're going to do a lot of remakes, and that's on the remake list.
oof.
I
Um,
Yeah.
saw the remake before I saw the original.
yeah, same here. I didn't know there was the original Robot because I think I was fairly young when I saw that, and it was before I was really into movies. So we go through this high school story, and then we meet his, there's Ratchek, there's missing an arm. It's like, yeah, so
Michael
what's citizenship?
Ironside.
Michael
He's
Ironside.
great. He's one of my favorite characters
Great.
in the
He's
movie.
my second favorite actor in this movie. We meet Dookie Howser, who's a psychic. He can mind control his
I
ferret.
love that scene with the ferret is really good, and they incorporate that in the ending as well.
Yeah.
There's some really good stuff in that scene, and the way that like in a lesser movie, he'd like Johnny Rico would be like, "Oh, you're a psychic," but in this movie, it's like, "How did you make the ferret? Like, what did you tell him? and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. He's a psychic. It's like
Yeah.
it's really good exposition.
And they're doing like that card guessing thing, which
Which is really cool.
So then there's and we get our next bit of propaganda about joining the mobile infantry, I think, in there.
Mhm.
Or no, is that no, that might not be till later actually. So we get the football game, which actually, yeah, in a weird way, this world is both better and worse than ours.
Yeah.
Because football is way more interesting in this world by making it
I
all
was blown away by what they were doing with football.
This is why we need to let athletes take steroids in sports.
This is something to note. We have women on the football fields.
Yeah, it's like like this world is really progressive.
And that's something I took a huge note of, and like this is a pretty big like girl power movie.
Yeah, they're like I think all the like all the female characters are made to be better leaders than the men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a woman general takes off after the botched landing. So I think that's like Paul Verhoeven imagined a fascist society, but he imagined one he would want to live in.
You think? I don't know. I think that there's some other I think
It's
he
just-
did this for a more sinister reason, or
maybe he
I think
did-
he's still
maybe he-
criticizing something with
Maybe
this.
he did it to maybe left wing people because my mom didn't.
You know what it might have been?
this-
I think it was like the idea of like, all right, we're gonna make this like fascist world, but it's a fascist world that everyone can get behind because we're still progressive, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, so
Well,
this is how like left-leaning people could still
I
accept
think,
a society like this.
The
Yeah.
rare thing about like
You know?
American fascism to most other fascism is usually about hating one group,
Mhm.
one group of people. Most other America's a very rare exception and Nazi Germany where it was a lot of people are the enemy.
Yeah.
So fascism, I think he views it as the bug is the only enemy, and the people, everything else doesn't really matter. Like,
Yeah.
We have religious, scientific, all in all, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he keeps the world very small and tight in this movie. Like
Which
he only
works.
really world
Like,
builds
so
where it's needed, which is really good.
When we get into the compare and contrast, we'll talk about that more.
Yeah.
So we get this football game, and we're introduced to Xander. Which could any of you figure out how old Xander is supposed to be?
No,
Yeah.
Because he's like in this high school football game, but then when
But he
you see
also
him, he's
looks like
already
he's
in the
30.
Navy. He's already in the Navy or Sky Force or whatever they call it, the Space Force. Have you guys seen the trailer for that on Netflix? Space Force?
but one thing I wanted to bring up is I'm like I feel like this is the movie Donald Trump saw before he decided space.
Right, Donald Trump is one of these guys who I know these right wing guys who see this movie and like, oh, that was awesome. That's pretty awesome. Like, that's a cool world. Oh, you didn't get the joke. Hey guys, we should be worried about Bill. He didn't get the joke.
I'm just imagining him in the Oval Office and like.
It's funny. So in my screenwriting class, I had some people who wrote some scripts. I'm like, wow, this is incredibly right wing. It's almost like parody. And the person's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, you think this is all good? Shit. Yeah, it was like this really stupid script about counterterror. It was like a ripoff of 24.
Mhm.
I want to say it's stupid. It was actually well written. Like, I think I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't think there's something inherently wrong with taking away like the pro-fascism or okay, this is gonna sound bad. I don't think
I get where you're going at.
Yeah, like I think it's actually to the movie's benefit that people watch this movie and have completely different interpretations based on their views, because it shows that the movie is like giving a fair point to either side, which is something that Avatar doesn't do. That this movie does very well, which is like really get down and dirty with like the morality of this.
This movie's more about understanding a kind of, I guess, in our mutual view, an evil versus because like it would have been very easy to do. We're so evil. We're going to destroy this race of people who are very sexy.
Yeah,
blue
but
people.
they show that all the characters love it. And something else is that the main character, Johnny Rico's arc, is going from like, I joined the military because I wanted a girl. I didn't actually care about serving in the army. I
to
thought that
being
was
like the
bullshit.
most diehard.
His arc is to like, now he's like full military. I'm dedicating my life to this.
Yeah,
like that's the propaganda of the movie.
So then anyway, yeah. So he's like, I'm gonna join mobile infantry, and his parents, who aren't citizens, are very anti. And I found this very interesting. Like they're these kind of liberal elite. Like, damn, you're not joining. I also love his father says, "You're going to Harvard," which is like a few scenes earlier, he got 35 on his test.
Right.
Also, what the fuck is on Vegeta Beach or Vegeta on Beach?
I don't know,
Like,
but it
I don't
isn't
know,
there
didn't it get blown
anymore.
up or something?
But like the way his dad's like, you're going to Vegeta Beach, like that has there's something very interesting on those beaches. Like there's like the way he says it is just like a weird way he says it.
So on the
I've always
lure.
wanted to go there.
Yeah, it's blown away. It's not there anymore. I forget what they said.
Yeah.
Also, this movie is far more quotable than Avatar.
Dude,
Oh yeah,
the,
for sure.
the guy who wrote this is the same writer as RoboCop, and
Mhm.
both of those movies
Which,
are
by the way,
insanely
only 2 movies he
quotable.
wrote, like the
Yes.
major movies that were released in theater. Only 2 movies he wrote. He did write all the sequels and directed all the sequels to this movie and RoboCop.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was only credited for the characters.
No, no, he.
I don't know. We'll have to check. Double
He
check.
wrote.
IMDb,
He
but-
wrote the sequels for this movie.
Oh, maybe for this movie. I don't know if he
Yeah.
wrote the RoboCop sequels, but yeah, the writer definitely has like a really unique style, and I love the one-liners. And also, Verhoeven is like perfect for his style because the way that the actors deliver the dialogue is very integral to like how the movie
Yeah.
works. Actually, fun fact: do you know that James Cameron was set to direct this at one point?
I did it, and that this episode
I
would be
would've-
so much better if that had happened.
I don't know if the movie would be better though.
No, unfortunately, what we got is we probably would have got because I think I know it originally was supposed to be called a Bug Hunt on Outpost something, and it was supposed to be kind of very faithful to the book where they're in the power armor,
Yeah.
which honestly would be a cool movie that I think James Cameron could do, but it'd be very different. Like I'm not saying the James Cameron version would be bad. I'm just saying it would be like very
Yeah.
different.
Something also interesting about this movie is how they send all of these infantrymen against the bugs, and it's like they
Mhm.
deliberately are sending them to the meat grinder. Like they have no artillery, they have no like tanks, no
Until
no
later
armor.
on, later on they get better at fighting, but I'll talk about that. So
Yeah, but it's like they're sending these people off to the meat grinder deliberately, and I
So
find
we had
that
this-
so interesting.
yeah, so we have the scene where they go to the recruiter, and I love this scene because like Izzy's like, or not Izzy, Carmen's like, I'm gonna be a pilot, and he goes, well, I'll probably be saluting to you next
Oh,
time.
dude.
And then what's his name? Dookie Howser goes up. My mom actually met Neil Patrick Harris, and I want to talk about that later because my mom doesn't like Neil Patrick Harris.
How could you not like Neil Patrick
He's apparently
Harris?
a bit of a dick.
Oh no, I'm sure he is.
Like because she was on a flight with him, and he was just being like kind of rude to everybody. She didn't actually talk to him, but he was being like rude to everybody surrounding him.
Yeah, I've heard that he is, but he's like really good in this movie.
I know he's a good. He's not my favorite, but he's good. My mom said I wish I'd seen this movie beforehand, so I could lean
Mhm.
over to him and say, "I loved you as Dookie Howser in Starship Troopers. You were the 10th best character." Because that would have, my mom would have got punched in the face and we'd be millionaires. But that would have made him snap. I think the snooze line would be Neil Patrick Harris as tax woman on airplane in England. So anyway, we go into this. So and then Johnny Rico's like, "Oh, I'm an idiot, so I got mobile infantry." And then the guy goes with his robotic arm, "Made me the man I am today. Wheels out back, no legs." I love that so much.
Yeah, that's one of the
Um,
best scenes I think. Like it's just like that.
But
That is like
it's this very fascist thing. Like this is not for everybody. This is
Yeah.
only for the
That
peak
scene
of
is-
civilization.
yeah. That scene is this entire movie in a nutshell,
Yeah.
basically.
Anyway, it actually reminds me of something very similar. A movie that's made by a fascist, Red Dawn, which will be on. I think I want to
original?
have you back. Yeah, I want to have you back for when we do that remake episode, Jake. Red Dawn. There's a scene where there's a guy has a sticker on his truck that says, "You'll only take my gun from my cold dead hands," and then the guy's lying behind it, and the director completely misses why that's funny. So yeah. So we then get he's sent out to basic training. I kind of like the basic training scenes.
Mhm.
First off, the drill instructor Zim just beats the shit out of the one dude, snaps his arm.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
so cruel. He
And
throws a
have-
knife in a
No,
guy's
no.
arm.
Yeah, he chokes Izzy, and I never noticed this because this is the first time I watched it on my 4K TV. And she has choke marks on her neck.
Yeah.
The next day when they're in the food line. We're also in the food line. We're introduced to my favorite character, Jake Busey.
Yes.
God bless
There's a lot of
him.
Jakes in these movies.
Yeah.
He's in a few other things now too, but like Jake Busey should be in more. Like I'll live and die by that.
Yeah, he was great in this movie.
Because Gary Busey was awesome. He's one of my favorite movies, Point Break.
Mhm.
That's also unfortunately got to be on the remake series.
Mm.
Then we have this whole awesome training scene, and we have the scenes where the shower scene, the infamous shower scene,
Mhm.
which is also I think the first time as like a young man I ever saw like full nudity in a movie.
Mhm. which is also, I think that scene. Do you know the backstory of it?
Oh yes, that Paul Verhoeven was naked during that too.
Yeah. So they were very uncomfortable with the shower scene. So
Yeah.
I forget which one of them. I think the actress
I think
who
it
plays
was
Dizzy.
I think that's
She
who
was like,
because she worked with him
Verhoeven
on
was
show.
like, just undress. It's easy. And then she's like, oh, if it's so easy, why don't you
I
do
think
it?
the
And
other
then
thing we have to
without hesitation, Paul Verhoeven strips, and the cinematographer
Well,
strip nude.
we have to think about something. Paul Verhoeven is European, so nudity
Yeah.
is like my friend's European, and he's like, why are they censoring out the nudity on the TV?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, because that's normal here. And he's like, yeah, no, in Europe, like as a kid, like there's just boobs everywhere. Like Europe's that's awesome. So I think that's also kind of like it builds in this propaganda where they're so blinded by like how amazing this fascism in the military is, that they are like they're not obsessed at all with the like all these attractive naked bodies because they're too busy thinking about this fascist society they fight for. Like I think that's kind of really neat in a way. And also like they use this as an interesting way to exposition some of the characters that we then see mercilessly turned into meat by bugs.
Yeah,
Yes, I
think
love
was
that.
one
There's
of
the
my-
farm kid who's like, yeah, shucks, I joined because who's actually the like only real Latino guy in this who dies really quick in this.
He
movie.
does die really quick.
He's like, I got accepted to Harvard. Johnny Rico, like, oh shit, I feel like a dick, but I can afford to go. And then there's the woman who said, I want to go into politics, which makes sense.
There's the one like, oh yeah, I want to go to politics, but you need to be a citizen for that.
The
So
one
here
stuck
I am.
out to me is the
She's
one
like,
woman
I
who's
want
like,
to have babies.
yeah, and you need a license in this world to have children, which is
that really stuck out to me.
and that's also like a modern.
And then
like,
she dies too. But
That's a modern right wing. No, she gets captured, which is she gets captured, so her brain gets sucked out, I guess.
Yeah, I think that scene is really interesting because it's like the people who go to the military are able to like reproduce much easier, like have kids much
and
easier
obviously
than people
the
who
only
don't.
reason that Rico's family probably it does as well is because they were rich.
Yeah,
Which
like
I
if
mean,
you're, yeah,
in our very own fascist society we live in, think about it, it's very hard to have children if you're poor, unless you have some sort of like military backing to like fund your healthcare and all that. Or so it's kind of weirdly like American in a way, like you get it, and like rich people do fairly well in our society. But I don't mean to get too political on this. So moving on, we have this whole thing that I realize with that too, you create a society. Well, my dad was in the military, my mom was in the military, so I guess I should be in the military. And we, from what we get in this society, people probably start families branching off because they met in the military. So you probably have this endless chain of soldiers, essentially. So we get the whole training scenes. They have like they're Dizzy and him. We get the reason Dizzy's a better squad commander. Then we get the accident where he blows the dude's braid out, to which he yells, "Medic!" Which is a very Paul Verhoeven thing, because he does that in RoboCop too. He does that in
yes,
RoboCop.
he does.
The guy gets strafed for like 20 minutes, says like, somebody call a goddamn medic.
It's
so funny.
And then we get the judicial punishment thing where the one woman's forced to leave. And that's the worst punishment. That you don't want to walk down that road. That's the worst punishment ever. Oh, something I forgot to bring up before this is he gets his calls from Carmen, and he pretty quickly gets Dear John, and I love Johnny gets Dear John, where she's kind of like, hey, this isn't gonna work out. I'm going career, because we get scenes of her, but I feel like she's kind of easy to null over because her scenes are that point of like where she's becoming this amazing pilot. And Xander's on board. Yeah. Which, that's builds into the love triangle, and that's essential of this fascist story.
Yeah.
Remember, kids, love triangles are fascist.
Yeah.
So then there's the, the training accident. Then we get the whipping scene, which is this martial punishment. I love that part where Sim goes, bite down on this. It helps. I know. And then he's thinking about leaving, and his parents call, and it goes dark all of a sudden, and we find out that the bugs sent the asteroids. They never explain how the bugs do it. They kind of briefly, it's like, oh yeah, the bugs project it. But there's this thing that happens they loosely connect, that destroys Buenos Aires very conveniently, leaving a large swath of our characters without any family anymore. Yeah. So then he goes back, he's like, sir, I want to join back up. And drill instructor Sam's like, "Is this your signature?" He goes,
It's
"Yes,
like,
it is." And he goes, "Shh,
not anymore.
not anymore. I don't see it." So we get them mobilizing, which is again very like kind of blitzkrieg Nazis moving out. We're mobilizing to war. Or even actually that kind of reminded me a bit more of the Russians, where it's like in communist propaganda, the Nazis have struck a blow to us, so we must mobilize instantly, regardless of how well prepared we are. It's very much, if you ever learn
Just
anything
toss as
about,
many people as at the enemy as possible.
yeah, it's very much, well, if you remember history about Iraq war, there's a lot of concerns. Our Humvees were not IED proof, and we weren't really ready to go to war. But as that one guy said, we go to war with the army we have.
Yeah. I think the movie's just a criticism more of just militarism above all else. Obviously, there's digs at fascism, but I think the most important takeaway is just military in all forms.
I think anything that's a dig at fascism is stuff like the having to have licenses to have children and stuff like that. And then so we go up, we get the scene. He runs into Carmen again, and he fights Xander. And then they're getting tattoos. I like how the tattoos are lasered on, and that and
Pours
death
beer
from
on
above.
it.
Yeah, they poured the liquor on it.
And
apparently the tattoo's just done at that point.
Yeah, he got very lucky.
He totally interrupted the tattooing process, but then he's like, "All right, cool, let's go." Woo!
That would be great if it was like completely fucked up. It just said "death from a blob."
Yeah,
I know. That's what I thought was going to happen for like a split second. I was like, "Oh God, is it going to be like half done?" Like something.
So we then go to Clondathu, and there's this scene where it's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's random." And then the ships start getting destroyed. They're like, "This is random. Somebody screwed up big time."
Yeah.
And then we get them. They all hit the ground, and we get our first view of the bugs. And there's the giant things firing plasma out their butts. And they have the shoulder-mounted nuke, coolest weapon ever, and actually a real thing our country tried to do. In the Cold War, we really did try to make shoulder-mounted nuke launchers.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
I think it was called like the Davy Crockett gun or something like that.
That's the most American thing I've ever heard.
We're gonna make a nuke you launch from your shoulder. We're gonna call it the Davy Crockett gun. So yeah, that was a thing we did. And then we get to the massacre where they're charged and they shoot the bugs, and people get. This movie goes from Tyler points out, it kind of goes from campy to incredibly murderous quickly. The one guy gets instantly ripped up, and then there's the farm dude who gets ripped in half and tossed. He's still alive, and then all the other things start ripping him apart. And
then you have the documentarian who's just there talking to the mic, and he gets ripped off, and then the cameraman just starts running.
The cameraman
turns around, gets a shot, and then just right through.
The cameraman has no regard for his own life. It's so funny.
Which is very realistic of cameramen. So then there's also the one chick who gets captured, and that's kind of a very fascist thing or militarist thing. It's much worse to be captured than to die. You much rather die honorably, screaming, than be captured. So that happens, and then we think Johnny Rico's dead because he comes up on the KIA list, and Carmen's like, "Oh no!" And just, don't worry, she only has this other incredibly good-looking dude.
I don't know. I didn't really care for the whole he's dead thing. I just
I think, and then because it's instantly undone when it's like, hey, you're dead. They're showing him in that thing.
Yeah, but why did they if he's clearly alive and everyone knows he's alive? Why did they declare him as dead? I never understood.
I think that's not realistic to the military because I know people in the military everything's really disorganized.
Yeah, maybe there's some detail, maybe if you know more about the military.
You think the military is incredible? Yeah, I think he knew things about the military enough to make it a little accurate to this extent, of the hurry up and wait mentality or how disorganized it actually is. Because I know people in the military who basically said, "Yeah, we're run like a community college. Basically, everything relies on PowerPoint and Outlook." And when you hear that about the military, you oh, everything's so less cool now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the military operate? Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook.
A community college that sends people to die.
Yeah, well, that's most community colleges.
That's Starship Troopers.
Yeah. So then, anyway, we get the next scene, which is Ratchet's Roughnecks. where conveniently, Jake Busey gets punched in the face. As my mom says, everybody's wanted to punch Jake Busey. He gets punched by the one chick who later loses her arm. And then we meet the dude who's actually from The Walking Dead. I can't think of his name. The black dude.
Watkins?
Watkins, yeah.
Yeah.
I think something that. Anyway, so we meet him, and then we meet Colonel Ratchik or Lieutenant Ratchik.
Well, the teacher, he comes
Yeah,
back.
he's the teacher. He's the teacher. Yeah, Ratchik's the teacher. He comes back, and he has his robotic arm, Michael Ironside. It's very convenient because this is the person who inspired Johnny to join the army. So then we go back to Clondathu. Oh, so then we have another propaganda scene, and there's a part that they go over incredibly briefly where it's 1,000 dead in 1 hour, like 100,000 dead in 1 hour. Like, wow, that's really meaningless.
Yeah, and
Is this the part of the movie where they cut to like the two people having a political debate?
Yes,
and
it
one of
is.
the-
Because wait, there's a weird thing. So like, do you guys know who Tucker Carlson is?
Yeah.
He's this bow tie wearing conservative dude who talks exactly like that. And this was before him, so I wonder if this inspired Tucker Carlson. Like, oh, I'm gonna be the bow tie
is it
wearing.
the scene where we're like, oh, they don't have
I
brains?
don't. I find it offensive that both could have intelligence.
My favorite line in the whole movie is when he goes, frankly, I find the idea of a brain bug to be offensive. It's so.
Well, and it is this thing again in fascist worlds where it's like, yes, we are both on the opposite sides of fascism, but we're still fascists, so we still think we should kill them all.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
If you watch The Man in the High Castle, there's kind of stuff like that where it's like, well, we're the American Nazis, and we think we should do it this way. Well, we're the German Nazis, we think we should do it this way, which is very realistic to how fascism works. That there's still
that's how any political discussion works.
Yeah,
like if you're like arguing.
The difference is at the end of the divide, it's more or less, well, we think it's going to take these 15 guns to murder all these people. Well, we only think we need 12. That's the difference. So so there's like these debates, and then there's also the thing like a murderer is convicted, guilty, he will die. Executions tonight at 6. So like executions are broadcast. This is like public punishment's a very obvious thing because earlier on Johnny's father says, I'd rather be whipped in the town square about 15 times than join the mobile infantry. So I guess like corporal punishment like in public is a very common thing. An execution, and it's more kind of that fascist idea of fear, stops people from doing crimes.
It's weird because like everyone seems kind of chill with it.
And I think it's
just part of their normal.
But if we lived in generations of that world, because this is like hundreds of years after whatever coup the military June to take over this world happened. If you grew up in that world for like hundreds of years, like, oh yeah, that would be normal. I mean, there are things we do that are like probably incredibly weird to other places, but just we grew up doing it, so it's normal.
Like our censorship of nudity.
Exactly, they're full circle. So then we get to the and then they're just showing the bug enemy, and the bugs are getting eating the cow, and there's the censor bar. It's totally pointless.
It's great.
So then we go to this the next invasion of Clondathu.
Aren't they invading a different planet?
Is it? I thought it was Clondathu. Maybe it's a different planet.
Clondathu and I think Planet P.
Yeah, they call it Planet P.
I don't know why.
I guess it's like an unnamed planet. So they go because they think this is where the brain bug is. So they run bombing runs because there's a new person in charge now, the new general, who's a black woman, a strong black woman's leading the Sky.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So there's bombing runs beforehand now. Why did they do that the first time? Like that's
right? That's what I'm saying.
So
like they had the capability to do this.
So like in fascist movies, there's this thing where you have to have a defeat before you can be truly victorious, and I think that's why they do it. Yeah, that's the idea. You have to have this major defeat before you can be truly victorious against crushing your enemy.
It also just like looks better, especially like considering how highly publicized the military's affairs is. It just looks better to have all these people charging at the enemy so you can get those great shots and show people off the propaganda.
Well, it's a lot of times
to have people like just run over, like fly over with
a guy I worked with told me a lot of times when they show video of like planes dropping bombs or tanks firing, that's not they're doing training drills because most of the time what it is mortars, small arms, fire, and artillery, but that doesn't look good for news packages, so that's why they show jets and tanks because that looks cool to news packages. And like I said, we live in a very in ourselves. We have a pretty militarized society where one of our biggest industries is arms, and we've pretty much been at war for the last several years. So we live in a world where we see those news things all the time, and I think that's the same mentality. What looks better, to show the infantry charging at the bugs, or to show jet bombers wiping them away quickly, and then they're nuking the bug holes. And then we started talking about this earlier. So then there's the scene where he fights the big bug.
Oh,
Yes.
And
like
the
big
CGI on that wasn't terrible. Like it,
Yeah,
it
no,
was
there's
dated.
good
It was
CGI.
dated, but it was actually pretty good.
Is that the
Yeah.
big beetle-looking one that like spews
Yes.
acid?
Yeah. And
that was-
yes,
that
the
was-
one
that was
woman
pretty-
loses her arm, and we never know what happens to her. So
Wait.
then they're victorious for the day, and they have their celebration. And Michael Ironside, he pulls out these trunks. It's like, here's the beer, here's the entertainment. Jake Busey picks up a violin and starts playing Dixie, the Civil War march for the Texas infantry,
Yeah.
the Confederate infantry. So he starts like away,
That's such a
in
good detail,
Dixieland. I only know the Union version. There's a Union. I think I don't know if I told you guys I just became a Civil War reenactor, but I'm not starting
Yeah.
anytime soon given circumstances. But so I got all these Union songs memorized, and I know there's a Union version of Dixie. Besides the point, though. So then something I noticed about Johnny Rico. Johnny Rico doesn't make a lot of decisions by himself. He does it because someone else is pulling him this way to do it.
Yeah.
And he finally decides to sleep with Dizzy, essentially because Michael Irons says, "Sir, I order you to have sex with that incredibly good-looking chick over there."
Yeah.
Like that is like his driving factor in ever. And then there's a whole scene they have the most awkward sex scene in film history. That's not true. It's pretty
I-
out there.
It's
thought
pretty
it was
awkward. Like when her
The shirt
like,
over
under
her
her eyes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that part was weird. Yeah, that was.
And
that
then,
was fun.
Michael Ironside, they get a message, and Michael Ironside said, "Hey, we'll be ready in 10 minutes." Johnny goes, "All right." And then you hear, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Who's in there with you?" Dizzy pops right up. He goes, "Make it 20.
Yeah.
Fuck whoever's dying. They can wait 10 minutes.
Bang.
Yeah.
So but again, it's more of this anyway. So we get them marching. The dude gets picked up by the thing, and then he shoots the dude in the head. And he's like, "I expect you to do the same." He could have killed that thing that was killing his guy. I feel like the giant boss bug. But again, it's the fascist ideology. You don't want to be captured or wounded. You want to come. You much rather die. So then we get to this outpost that was overrun because the bugs tunneled in, and it has the best line in the movie. They sucked his brains.
Michael Ironside has a very similar line at the end of Scanners, where he's like, "I'm gonna scan your brains dry," or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what Scanners is, but
Scanners is a wonderful film.
maybe if we find a similar film, we'll put it on this podcast. So the thing is, I honestly, then there's this big outpost, and this actually got me excited because I heard recently they're doing a video game, a strategy game of Starship Troopers, and it's going to be very similar to this scene where it's like you have outposts and you have to defend them and whatnot.
Yeah, I think this is like the most iconic scene in the movie.
Yeah, because they were getting overrun. It's like an Alamo type scene, and you have the bugs flying in, and the cowardice general finally dies. And they're about to shoot him in the head. This
I
coward's
kept getting him
terrible.
confused with the sergeant from earlier in the film.
Yeah,
From
I think they
Zen.
look similar. They
They
look
look
very
way
similar.
too similar, dude.
Anyway, so then Carmen and Xander come to rescue them after they have this like danger close extraction scene, and we get this whole scene where they come and Dizzy dies because she gets stabbed in the back by the quietest bug in the world.
Yeah, like where did he come from?
That motherfucker's like,
That was a mistake on the CGI department,
yeah.
I think.
And then she's getting tossed around. It looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of cartoonish. So she dies, and it's like, hey, Giant Rico, love triangle problem solved itself. Then we get the whole infantry versus Navy thing. So then we go to the next time they're going after the brain bug. I'm trying to summarize so we can talk about the two movies. So I'm trying to go faster through it. So we get the brain bug thing, which is pretty cartoonish on its own because the brain bug's kind of, I don't know. So they're going after the brain bug, Dookie Howser, Nazi Dookie Howser, who's like in an SS uniform.
Yeah.
Like if you're not getting it, like you should be getting it now. Like
right?
Like if you weren't getting what this was, you should be getting it now. He's like, well, we needed to sacrifice. So they figure out there's a brain bug. They go down. They're looking for it. Carmen gets shot down. And through Dookie Howser telling him to go towards Carmen, They find out where the brain bug is, and he comes in with a nuke and says, "Hey, capture Carmen." But before that, we have the scene where the Xander, the other dude, he gets his brain sucked out. Before that, he says, "Someone like me is gonna kill you and every last one of your race." Super Nazi line.
Yeah.
Super Nazi line.
As he's staring down the weird vagina brain monster.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we get out, and then we get to this whole, last stand where they're shooting their way out of the bug hole, and the one guy detonates the nuke in his hand, a heroic
It's like
sacrifice.
the scene from Alien or Aliens. Yeah.
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 Was that before this? Aliens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Way before.
Yeah. No, so that's where that came from. So they make it out, and then we find out drill instructor Zim captured the brain bug.
Yeah, he was.
And then it's a happy ending, and then,
sure.
And then we have our last moment of propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you guys like the scene where the kids are like stomping on the bugs?
I love that.
That's a great. So now let's talk about both these movies. So first, let's get the queer question. Which one is the better movie?
Starship Troopers.
Starship
100%.
Troopers. I think it's because here's the contesting.
I like them for very different reasons.
Yeah, it's tough to compare them because I feel like other than the sci-fi alien themes,
I chose
very different
I realized I chose two intentional. I intentionally chose two very different movies because I chose them for the fact of I wanted to start out with two movies that were very different. Because I feel like when you go into remakes, it's easy to say, well, the remake's better, but these are different movies.
I think which one I would sooner rewatch is definitely Starship Troopers. I found that movie very entertaining.
I don't think I could watch Avatar again unless I was doing something else.
Yeah, like Avatar, like I really
Avatar,
love that movie. It's just it's not as it's hard to sit through.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we like about these movies and what we don't like about these movies.
Can I make a comparison first?
Yeah.
I think if we're going to compare these movies, I think something to account for. Like if these two movies were like pieces of music, I think Avatar would be like a symphony or like a piece of classical music. And Starship Troopers would be like a politically conscious hip hop song or something.
No, it's know what it is? It's political punk.
Right, yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's like it's honestly like a punk song I'd listen to.
Every day.
They're vastly different in that sense.
So I'm gonna talk about like cultural influence of both these movies. I feel like Starship Troopers, weird enough, has had more cultural influence where it's more iconic. Like more people talk about today than because if I ask somebody, hey, what do you think about Avatar? They'll go, I haven't thought about that
show
movie.
Or the movie.
Yeah, more people will say, "Oh, the show." I'm like, "No, the movie." I haven't thought.
Yeah, like the Last Airbender works a lot against Avatar the movie because there's two very different things, but more people have an idea. Like, oh yeah, I know the Last Airbender. That's a great show, and I'm like, wait, no, I was talking about the movie.
And they're like, "Oh, I haven't thought about that in years." Or
you're talking about the M. Night Shyamalan one or the James Cameron one?
So I feel like that's the main reason I'd say Starship Troopers is better is because it's held on. Because if you say Starship Troopers, people know what you're talking about usually, especially, I mean, we're all film students. And like in our circles, they tend to, but like if you say people are like, oh, man, that movie is freaking awesome because it's,
absolutely. Well, yeah. And I don't think that's necessarily a determining factor in what makes a better movie, but it certainly has an impact on the film's like
and
iconism.
Well, let's talk about this too. Like cultural media, there's been multiple Starship Trooper video games, and they're coming out with another one. Avatar had one video game which I actually played and it was decent. It was kind of like a cool little open world game. You could choose to play as the mercenaries or as the Avatar, and that did a better job actually with the storyline of like. Here's the human side of things. Here's the Avatar side of things. But video games, you have that hours of story you're able to tell. With movies, you can't really do that. Yeah. Also, so let's talk about we have these two movies that are different, but so let's talk about what we don't like about both these movies, like things that we kind of think are negative about them both.
Well, Avatar's big issue for me is just that it dumbs itself down a lot for the kid audience, right? Because like the voiceover is unnecessary. There's a lot of like really drawn out stuff that I feel like is just there for like the kids. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's like dumbed down in that movie, and it's a shame because the core of the movie is pretty good. it's just like there's so many details that just don't work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it too, and I think the things I didn't like about Avatar was it was forgettable.
Mhm.
Like nothing stuck out. Like there was nothing quotable, and that's a shame because I like James Cameron. I think he's
Yeah.
a really talented director.
And compared to Starship Troopers, like Starship Troopers is bound to get a visceral reaction from anyone across
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah.
That's what
And
makes it so appealing.
On a technical,
Avatar is a bit more chill.
also on
I
a
think.
technical level, I think Avatar is a superior film. I think,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the CGI
even though
is
I
better.
said
Without a
the
doubt.
CGI is like, I much rather see real things, which is something I love about
Like at the same time, I think the practical effects
Which is
in
something I
Starship
love about
Troopers are
Edge of-
superior to anything in Avatar. But I think
Well, something I
Avatar's
love
like
about
special effects are better.
another very sci-fi movie, Edge of Tomorrow,
Mhm.
is there's like armored suits are real, so there's kind of like this weight
Yeah.
to when everybody's acting.
Yeah, that movie has really good effects.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a movie to compare it to that, but not really finding that. So and then now like so what now I don't like about Starship Troopers
Mhm.
is there's kind of just it feels like because I feel like if he'd gotten better actors to act it the same way, it would have
Mhm.
been a more interesting movie because I kind of feel like it goes into like this parody movie type feel. Sometimes it still feels a little too much like watching like Scary Movie or something like that
Yeah,
for me.
the entire like I had that feeling the entire time. I'm like, this is camp to the high degree
Yeah.
where it feels like it's a parody,
Yeah.
which it is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because I think we talked about why we.
It's really hard for me to take a lot of it seriously
Yeah.
because it is so silly at
Yeah.
times.
So how would you guys fix
The
these
violence
movies?
is so over the top.
How would you guys fix?
That's a very tough question, Mikhail. That's a very loaded question.
I know it's very loaded, but just like your
Uh,
quick answer, I guess I'll go first and say,
Yeah.
if I were to fix Avatar, Jake, like you said, I would have cut down a lot of the fluff, and with that time, I would have made it more about like, okay, let's make the humans a little more human. And
Yeah.
honestly, maybe if Avatar was an R-rated war movie, it might have had more opportunity, but we're not getting that these days. So
I don't think making it R-rated would have improved
yeah,
it,
but
I
or at
think-
least
No, I wouldn't have done much.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
having what I said at the start with like having the brother character be the main character would
Yeah.
have been the biggest thing for me anyway. Like
And-
that would have added so much more.
maybe having a peaceful
Conflict.
resolution instead of this war one is
You gotta
that might
have the
be-
big action scene.
I know,
though.
but like maybe have that, but may through that have some sort of peaceful resolution, because the humans are utterly screwed, and they have
Yeah, I would
no
like
re-
it. I think a battle would be cool for like the middle of the movie, but the
Mhm.
ending should be something a bit smarter.
I think
Yeah.
but the thing with the fact that the humans are screwed is the message that the movies is trying to convey is the humans did that to themselves.
Yeah, but still, like
It's not like you're not supposed to like you feel bad for the humans because they're the humans, but in a way they deserved it.
mhm, right.
And the
All of
Navi
them,
sound-
like that's not a
Yeah,
very
like-
practical message.
it's
like-
not, but like
Honestly, if
it's-
this movie
it's
was less
more-
about
it's more
resources,
criticism of corporate greed and colonialism.
but that's not
Yeah,
the
I get
message
that.
I get. I just get the message humans are bad, which
It's tough because
It's
the
about
message is
how
not.
human society has.
I don't know. I
kind
think
of
if they
destroyed
made some of
itself.
I think if like Stephen Lang maybe wasn't Stephen Lang, maybe if that was a character who's like, oh, I have my kids are like at home, I need to pay for them and shit like that. It's
Yeah.
like that's why I'm so
Yeah.
diehard. Like I'm defending my.
Yeah, they
know.
didn't make the characters simple. Like characters, like they're cookie cutter characters. They're not like
Yeah.
they're kind of
Yeah,
cartoonish. They're not like
wanted to-
real.
I wanted to
people.
empathize more with the people because
so-
I'm a person.
And
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
thing I would fix is better actors. I really think if you had some better actors,
Yeah,
would-
that too.
I think if
think
he-
that
even if
lead
you had like
especially-
Matt Damon and Jake Sully's shoes, I would have been much more.
Matt Damon's totally charismatic. Yeah, he would have been.
Yeah, like The Martian is a movie where if they had anybody besides like a charismatic person, Matt Damon was, it would be terrible. So now Starship Troopers, it's like honestly, I think maybe tone down some stuff, still keep it goofy if you're going for the satire thing, and maybe just honestly making it look a little bit better is the only thing I could say. Like
The
to
thing
fix
with
that.
Starship Troopers is a lot of like moments that should be emotionally powerful are totally like glossed over.
That's kind of the point.
I think that's the
Well, I
point,
know,
though,
but like there's a lot of things that kind of just like happen and then just like all right, next scene.
Mhm.
There's,
Yeah.
there's never a moment where you there's some little moments that are just like I'm supposed to care about what's happening
Mhm.
because it's just like snap. It, like the pacing is fast, but like if it was slowed down a little bit more, I think I'd be a little bit more invested in the actual world.
All right. All right, well, I'm
I
gonna
think a
wrap us
slower
up on
pace
that note.
could
I'm
help
gonna
it out
wrap
with
us
it.
up on that note. So thanks for you guys for joining us. And after I hit end on the recording, I want you guys to stay on for a minute. But join us
Mhm.
next week when we're gonna be talking about Ghostbusters, the original, and Ghostbusters, the reboot.
Ah.
All right.
All right. How do I stop recording?